Hi, we're representatives from the Community Assistance Teams with the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation, or EFC. I'm Nick Dimitrazik.
I'm Paul Kutcha.
I'm Gabby Smith.
And I'm Jess Hoffman. Our mission is to help communities throughout the state undertake critical water quality infrastructure projects.
We do this by providing low-interest financing, grants, and expert technical assistance to municipalities in need of drinking water and wastewater infrastructure improvements.
Since 1987, we've provided almost $50 billion in financial assistance to communities throughout the state of New York, including $2.8 billion in water infrastructure improvement and intermunicipal water infrastructure grants since the program's inception in 2015.
Aging infrastructure and the growing threat of emerging contaminants pose serious risks to public health and the environment. Created in 2015, the Water Infrastructure Improvement and Intermunicipal Water Infrastructure Grant Programs, which are also called WIA and IMG, provide dedicated grants for clean water projects and drinking water projects. The program helps municipal entities reduce pollution, improve water quality, and modernize treatment plants to meet state and federal water quality standards. Eligibility for WIA remains the same whether the funding is for clean water projects, drinking water projects, or projects for emerging contaminants. In addition to cities, towns, villages, and counties, eligible entities include town improvement districts, public authorities, public benefit corporations, school districts, and Indian nations or tribes with reservations wholly or partly within New York State.
Grants for clean water projects help communities construct or upgrade municipally owned wastewater treatment infrastructure. To qualify for funding, projects must be for the construction, replacement, or repair of infrastructure, or for upgrades to comply with environmental and public health laws and regulations related to water quality. This can include repairing or upgrading aging plants, boosting nutrient removal systems, tackling sewer overflows, or piloting cutting-edge technology to fight PFAS and other emerging threats. Projects must not be exclusively for residential or commercial construction, and work must not be completed before the application deadline of September 12th. Each project can receive up to $25 million or 25% of its eligible cost. Certain projects serving small, rural, and hardship communities may be eligible for grants of 50% of eligible costs. Remember, if you're co-funding with other state or federal grants, those may lower your eligible project costs and can impact your total award amount. Other EFC grants don't count against that net eligible cost.
The program also provides funding for drinking water and emerging contaminants projects. WIA drinking water grants assist communities with upgrades to the distribution mains and expansion of municipally owned public water systems and districts. These grants are up to 70% of costs, up to $5 million. WIA also funds projects that address emerging contaminants above the state maximum contaminant level. These funds can be used for projects combating one or more emerging contaminants, such as PFOA, PFAS, and 1,4-dioxane, using solutions like system upgrades for better filtration and employing innovative pilot technologies to address this important public health and water quality issue. These grants are also up to 70% of costs with no cap. Additionally, projects undertaken jointly by multiple municipalities can apply to our Intermunicipal Water Infrastructure Grant Program. Cooperating municipalities must have a current, valid, and binding project intermunicipal agreement. This must include details related to the financing and implementation of the project. Awards of up to $30 million or 40% of net eligible costs are available.
We'll walk through the steps to apply in just a moment, but here's a quick overview of what will be needed. Your application will require an authorizing or bond resolution, a complete engineering report, State Environmental Quality Review or SEQR documentation, a State Historic Preservation Office or SHPO determination letter, the most recent annual financial report or AFR filing, and, if applicable, documentation for district formation. Depending on your application type, additional documents may be required, especially for projects seeking SRF financing or applying for an IMG. But note that we will not accept applications without the materials I just listed. These items can take time to prepare, so we strongly encourage starting early.
You can apply for a WIA or IMG grant using EFC's portal. First, navigate to EFC's homepage at efc.ny.gov. Then click Apply for Grants and select Water Infrastructure Improvement and Intermunicipal Grants. Next, scroll down to the Online Application button. This button will open our portal where you can begin the application. Please note that this portal is separate from the Project Listing and Update System, or PLUS, that is used to list projects on the Intended Use Plan, or IUP. From here, you can log in using your existing credentials or previously created username and password, register as a new user, reset your password, or resend email confirmation. Importantly, listing your project on the IUP is not a requirement to submit a WIA application. For Round 10, WIA applications must be submitted by September 12, 2025. Once you've logged in, you'll be greeted with the homepage. On the top of the screen, you will see announcements from EFC, which will be updated with any pertinent messages. Below is a summary of your applications. The left column shows the number of unsubmitted applications, and the right, submitted applications. You can navigate through the portal using the buttons located on the left-hand side of the screen. Under the Home button is the Applications tab, which we'll come back to in a moment, and then the Help tab. From this page, you can download multiple resources, including the portal user manual and the WIA IMG grant application instructions. Additionally, you can submit a question or request to have a new municipality added to the system using the box on this page.
Now we'll navigate to the Applications tab, where you'll be greeted with a listing of all your applications. You can see the application ID, when it was created, the municipality the application is for, the type and program, as well as the project description. Above this table is a button where you can create a new application. On the bottom of the page are application actions, which will be applied to the pink highlighted application above. With these, you can open the application, validate, submit, delete, print, or extract uploaded documents. On the bottom of the page, you can also start a new application or share an application. If other users will be working on an application you create, you can share an application you have started by selecting the application you wish to share and then choosing the Application Sharing button located at the bottom right of the page. Once the window appears, choose the Add User button, then enter the email of the individual you'd like to share with under Username. Note that to share an application, the individual you're sharing with must already have a portal account. You can opt to give the user read-only access, which will only allow them to see what is entered in the application. If this box is left unchecked, you will give the other user full edit access to the application. Please note, while they'll have the ability to edit, they will not be able to submit the application. Only the user who created the application will be able to submit. To finish sharing, just click the Update button and you will see a pop-up window confirming it has been shared. Another function of the application sharing window is transferring an application to another user. This is especially useful if an individual will no longer be working on an application. Once an application is shared with the user, you can then select the Transfer button and it will be sent to them. This will give the new person the ability to submit the application, but you will no longer be able to access, view, or use the application once it has been transferred.
To create a new application, you can click the New Application button. When the button is clicked, you will be prompted to select a municipality. You can use the search bar to type the name or look through the available options. If you are unable to find your municipality, you can submit a request for it to be added under the Help page using the Submit a Question section. After selecting your entity, you're prompted to enter a customer type, either authority, municipality, not-for-profit, private, school district, or state agency. Just a reminder that private and not-for-profit entities are not eligible to apply to the WIA IMG programs. Next, you will be asked to select an application type. Select WIA IMG to apply to either program. You will then be prompted to choose either clean water or drinking water. Questions will differ slightly based on which you select. Lastly, you'll be asked if you are applying for a grant only or a grant along with state revolving fund financing. Grant only means you are not seeking financing from EFC. If you already have financing with EFC and are now applying for a grant, you will select WIA IMG and SRF.
A nice feature of the portal is the ability to copy information from a previous SRF and WIA application to a new application. For example, if you submitted a WIA application in the last round and are submitting a new application for this round, you will be asked, do you want to copy answers from another application? If you choose yes, you will be asked to select which application you would like to copy from. All matching information from the selected application will be pulled into the new application. This will only work for a WIA/IMG and SRF applications. Other types are unable to be copied. Be sure to review what was carried over, and if project-specific information is different, take care to make changes.
Once a new application is started, it will open to the Applicant tab. At the top of the screen, you will see the application type, ID, municipality, and designation of either CW or DW. Below that are 10 tabs where you can navigate through the application. Take note of the top right of the page. Here, action buttons are available. The print button will open a new web page with a printable version of the application. Next, you can use the validate button to identify errors that will prevent application submission. It will open a new window with a breakdown of errors listed by tab, then field, along with a message. This window can be left open while you are correcting errors. A good way to use the validate button is after completing each tab, as you can confirm that you have not missed any sections. Also linked are the application instructions along with the required signature page, which we'll talk about a little bit later. To make changes, first click the Edit button on the top left of the page. You can then begin to fill out the application. The name of the applicant will be pre-filled, and the type of application will also be selected. If you change your mind and would like to submit a different type of application, please uncheck the selected box, and you can then make a new selection. To locate your SRF project number, please refer to the intended use plan on our website. If your project is not yet listed on the IUP, you can leave the project number blank. Then, enter the project county and the Unique Entity Identifier, or SAM ID. In Section B, select the type of grant program you would like to apply to. Note, you can select to apply to both the WIA and IMG programs. If interested in the Intermunicipal Grant Program, we suggest also selecting the WIA program so that your project can be evaluated for both opportunities. Once you have completed the section, use the top left button to save. Please note, you will not be allowed to navigate to other tabs until you have saved the section you are currently working on.
As we move through the application, we are now on the General tab. First, click the Edit button, then begin by entering the project name, project location, and the latitude and longitude of the project. Next, you are asked to provide the legislative districts for the project area. You are required to submit information for 3 types: New York Assembly, New York Senate, and U.S. Congress. Begin by selecting the Add District button. Then select Type. We'll start with Assembly. You can then enter the district number. Some projects encompass 2 districts. Please enter both and designate one as primary. Clicking the Update button will populate the office holder name and lock the entry. Continue until you've filled in details for all 3 types. If you are not sure of the project's legislative districts, you can select the blue link, which will take you to the New York State Board of Elections website. There you will find information for the legislative district maps. Next, you will complete information for the district name or service area, as well as project population. You are then asked to list the municipalities and users served. If the project service area includes more than one municipality, list all in the district. For clean water projects only, you will be asked for a SPEDIES or State Pollutant Discharge Elimination System permit number, POSS or Publicly Owned Sewer System number, and the water body affected by project. For drinking water projects only, you'll see Public Water Supply ID number. Next, you're asked to provide milestone date information for your project. You have an option to select actual or target dates for each of these. Select the Save button to save your entries for this section. To check if all required items have been addressed on this tab, select the Validate button.
Moving to the next tab, you'll be asked for basic information about the project. Please note, questions will differ if you are filling out a clean water, drinking water, or an IMG application. We'll cover each now. Project scope differs across all three applications. Begin by selecting the Edit button to make changes to the section. For drinking water projects, you are first asked to describe your project. You are then asked to choose which categories the project scope addresses. Next, for question 3, indicate if any portion of your source, treatment, or distribution system has been compromised or created a situation where users are without water. Lastly, for question 4, indicate if the project is required through an enforcement action, such as a DOH violation, DOH or EPA consent order, judicial order, or compliance schedule. If applying for a clean water project, you'll indicate if the project is required to be undertaken by an executed enforcement instrument or a SPEDIES permit violation. Make sure you include any relevant documentation under the Documents tab. For question 6, indicate if the project scope includes any of the boxes that are applicable. For IMG applicants, you'll see question 7, which asks you to describe how the project involves or serves multiple municipalities cooperating through an IMA or Intermunicipal agreement and the relationship between the municipalities undertaking the joint project. Be sure to include a description of how the project will solve or improve identified water quality issues. Note that later in the Documents tab, you will need to upload a valid and binding IMA between at least 2 cooperating municipalities. This must be a specific agreement for the financing and implementation of the IMG project that describes the proposed project, the role of each municipality, and the costs attributable to each municipality. The rest of the section, questions 8 through 14, is the same for all application types. You are then asked to describe the community impacts of the project, including public support, community resources served, and economic development impacts. Next, you are asked if the project will benefit a potential environmental justice area, or PEJA, or disadvantaged community, DAC. You can use the DEC Info Locator map to identify if the project falls under these categories by clicking the blue link. This will take you to the DEC's website. From here, you'll select Public Involvement and then click Potential Environmental Justice Area and Disadvantaged Communities. You can then search for your project to see if it is included in one of these areas. Next, indicate if the project is identified in any regional planning initiatives, such as a comprehensive plan, regional planning document, waterfront revitalization plan, watershed plan, estuary plan, or DEC 9-element watershed plan. Then indicate if the project requires easements or land acquisitions. Next, describe the current status of the project along with your ability to demonstrate project readiness. This would include an executed engineering agreement for design services, executed professional services agreement, a detailed project schedule, and plans and specifications. Next, you're asked if the project requires the formation or extension of a water or sewer district. If you are extending or forming a new sewer or water district, indicate yes. If the new district has already been approved, please submit the approval letter under the Documents tab. We will explain the Documents tab a bit later. If a new sewer district is not approved yet, please provide a status update. New for this year is question 14, which asks for the last year you filed an annual financial report. You must provide a copy later in the Documents tab. Applications for clean water projects will see question 15, which asks if the project has been identified and approved asset management plan or capital improvement plan. If so, please upload the relevant documentation.
New for this year is the Contacts tab. Here, you're asked to provide information on all individuals involved in the project. For elected officials, include the full legal name, including initials if applicable, and the date their term of office expires. You'll need to add a contact for each role listed on the Contacts tab. A financial advisor only needs to be included if applicable for the project. An additional, optional contact field is available if needed. First, click the Edit button and begin by filling in information for the Chief Executive Officer or highest elected official. Be sure to include a physical address if it differs from the mailing address, as this information is used for sending relevant documents. When you've finished entering information, be sure to click the Save button. Once completed, you can copy this information to the Chief Fiscal Officer, Clerk, and Daily Contact sections. It is very important to double-check all contact details before submitting your application, since any errors may cause delays.
We'll now move on to the Total Project Budget tab. The first section asks for construction contracts to be added. This is for anticipated or actual contract information. The information added here will sum all contract amounts entered and populate the total in the budget section below under Contract Total. You are required to enter at least one contract in order to populate the construction costs. Begin by clicking on Add Contract under the Construction Contracts area. If construction contracts have not been acquired, enter TBD for the contract number and contractor name. For contractor amount, please provide a current estimated cost in dollars. To pass validation, the contract amount must be greater than $0. For start date, if construction contracts have not been acquired, provide an estimated construction start date and select Target from the drop-down. If construction contracts are obtained, then you would select Actual. To elaborate, all estimated costs pertaining to your project must be based on information acquired in the last 6 months. This will help minimize the effects of any changes in construction costs. In the WIA IMG instructions, a chart is provided as a guide of typical costs associated with construction. Please review this table. To add another contract, you must select Save first, then click the Add Contract button. Finally, ensure you have fully completed the budget section below in accordance with the WIA IMG application instructions.
The next section is the Finance tab. Here you are asked to complete a list of items to indicate how the non-grant portion of the project is to be financed. If any of the items are not relevant to your project, you can select the Not Applicable box. You must identify all sources of funding that will be used to pay project costs not covered by the grant being applied for. Please provide as much detail as possible for the source of funds in the plan of finance, as this may impact the grant amount. Projects that are not using State Revolving Fund or SRF financial assistance for the balance of their project will not be added to the SRF Intended Use Plan or IUP, will not be eligible for the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act or IJA funding, and must demonstrate how the project will be funded and show that it will be funded with low-cost financial assistance similar to SRF financial assistance.
The next section provides a location to submit required documents for the application. The upper box lists which documents are required for your application type. The left column shows if it has been uploaded yet. To upload a document, begin by using the drop-down button and selecting the type. You then have the option to enter description. Next, choose the Select Files button and upload the document. You can also drag and drop a file from a file browser. Please note, a list of acceptable file types is provided and the maximum allowable size is 50 megabytes. If file sizes exceed the limit, you can use the Submit Large Documents service on our website. If any of the required documents are unavailable, the application will not be accepted. Once a document is uploaded, it will appear in the Uploaded Document section towards the bottom of the page. You will see the document type, name, description if provided, uploaded date, and who it was uploaded by.
We are now at the Acknowledgements tab, where there are statements regarding your responsibilities under state and federal programs. Please note, this tab will be different depending on the type of application you are submitting. The first two statements are included on all application types. Please be sure to read each fully before clicking the Acknowledge button. For additional details on the Federal Requirements Acknowledgement, refer to the current IUP. This includes additional details regarding your responsibilities under these programs. Since these will also be discussed in the next tab, let's take a quick minute to define three common acronyms that show up. MWBE stands for Minority and Women-Owned Business Enterprise. EEO stands for Equal Employment Opportunity. And SDVOB stands for Service Disabled Veteran-Owned Business. For grant-only applications, you must also acknowledge the SRF Financial Assistance Acknowledgement, indicating that the applicant will be prepared to fund the balance of the project with funding similarly low cost to SRF financial assistance. By clicking the Acknowledge button, you are affirming compliance with these state and federal requirements, and that you are authorized to make this acknowledgement on behalf of the applicant. Once you've read each statement and acknowledged their responsibilities, make sure to click on the Acknowledge button for each section. Please note that the Acknowledge button cannot be reversed, so make sure to only click the button when ready to accept.
The next section deals with similar details. You must designate an MBO, or Minority and Women-Owned Business Enterprise Officer. This is the individual responsible for compliance with the applicant's MWBE, SDVOB, and EEO requirements. A document containing instructions for your MBO can be obtained from your Program Compliance Specialist at EFC once one is assigned to your project. Please fill out the information for the office, also entering details for an authorized alternate. When ready, click on the Edit button and enter all relevant information, making sure to enter all middle initials. When you've completed, make sure to click the Save button to finalize the information.
Projects applying for a WIA IMG grant are subject to the State Smart Growth Public Infrastructure Policy Act. To comply with the Smart Growth Act, applicants must complete all questions under this section. If a question does not apply to your project, you can choose Not Applicable. For additional details on this section, please see the application instructions. When you're ready to start the form, click the Edit button. Click on the Save button when finished.
When you're finished, begin by selecting the desired application that you would like to submit. It will turn pink. Next, click the Validate button to ensure no items are missing. An important note, if you are applying for both a state water grant and SRF funding, your SRF application must be submitted prior to the submission of your state water grant application, or else the state water grant application will not pass validation. Once you've checked validation, you can then choose the Submit button, where you'll be prompted to attach a signature page, which must be signed by the individual identified within the authorizing resolution. Once you've chosen your document, you can select the Upload button and then submit the application. We're now going to cover some frequently asked questions that we receive from applicants. One question we receive is, who is the authorized representative? The authorized representative is a municipal staff member who is authorized to submit the application on behalf of the municipality. This individual is usually identified within the board or authorizing resolution. We also receive questions regarding bond and board resolutions and the differences between each. If debt will finance any portion of the project, you must submit a bond resolution that includes the total project costs to be financed, including any SRF financings. If debt will not be issued to finance any portion of the project, you must submit a board resolution, also referred to as a funding resolution, that authorizes the undertaking of the project and the total funding appropriated for the project. The resolution must also designate a representative of the applicant who is authorized to sign the funding agreement with the FC and any associated documents. In most cases, a board resolution is sufficient for a grant-only application. To view additional frequently asked questions, you can navigate back to our State Water Grants page on our website and select FAQs.